Hello everyone. Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Plain English podcast. I'm Emily, and as always, I am absolutely thrilled to be here spending this time with all of you today.
And I'm David. We are really genuinely happy to have each and every one of you tuning in today. You know, this podcast is all about learning real English, the kind of English that people actually use in their normal daily lives, not just what you read in dry textbooks.
Exactly. So, if you enjoy learning English through authentic conversations, simple explanations, and just overall friendly vibes, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give us a like, and turn on the notification bell. It really helps our channel grow and allows us to reach so many more English learners just like you.
It really does. All right then, let's all just relax. Take a deep breath together and start learning naturally. Sounds good?
Sounds perfect. But okay, David, can I be completely honest with you for a second?
Of course you can. What's on your mind, Emily?
Well, back when I was starting out, I used to feel so incredibly confused about when to use to and for. Even when my English was improving in other areas, these two tiny little words always made me so nervous.
Same here. They are such small words, but man, they can cause big trouble for learners. And the funny thing is, native speakers use to and for all the time without even thinking about it for a single second.
Yes, but learners think about them a lot. The question of should I to or for is something that never sleeps. So, today we are definitely not teaching grammar rules like a boring textbook. Instead, we're going to master to and for through real conversation, real feelings, and real life English.
I love that approach. In fact, just this morning, I made coffee for you, Emily.
Oh, thank you so much. Smells and see? Right there. That's already a perfect example of using for. You made coffee for me because the coffee is meant for someone. I am the lucky receiver.
Exactly. And right after that, I walked to the kitchen. So, right away, we can hear something very important. To often shows direction or movement, while for often shows who receives the benefit of something. But don't worry, everyone. We are absolutely not memorizing rules today. We are just feeling the language.
That's the spirit. Can I tell you something that our learners often say to me? They say, Emily, I understand everything when I listen, but when I try to speak, my brain just freezes completely.
Oh yes, that classic frozen moment. Your mouth desperately wants to speak, but your brain stops and says, wait, is it to or for? That's exactly why we need to practice with real stories and emotions, not rules. By the way, Emily, why do you learn new things? Or better yet, why do you think people learn English?
Good question. For instance, you might say, I learn English to communicate with people. Here, you use to because you want to do an action. But if you ask me, I would say, I learn English for my future.
Ah, I see the difference clearly now. For is used for a reason, a benefit, or a larger purpose. So, to connects us to an action or a verb, and for connects us to a reason or a noun. But again, guys, please don't try to memorize this. Just listen, repeat, and feel it.
Yesterday is another great example. I bought a beautiful gift for my sister because she loves reading, and I actually went to the bookstore to buy it. Look at how naturally we just used both words in one go. I walked to the store, bought a gift for my sister, and then I gave it to her.
Wow, look at that sentence. Smiles, it flows so beautifully when you talk about real-life events. It's the same when we talk about our feelings. When I'm tired, I listen to music, but when I'm stressed, I go for a walk or go for a run. English has these natural patterns that we learn through living life, not by studying slips.
So, if you're listening to us right now, try saying this with me very slowly. I'm learning English to improve my life, and I'm learning English for myself. Both are completely correct and both feel totally natural, even though the feeling behind them is slightly different.
And that is completely okay, because English doesn't need perfection, it just needs connection. You really don't need to be perfect to speak great English. You speak it for communication, not just for passing exams. Mistakes are just a natural part of the journey, and every single mistake is for learning.
That is so beautiful, David. I really love how easy and natural this conversation feels when we stop fighting the language and just start using it. Something really funny happened to me this morning regarding this.
Uh-oh. Whenever you start a story with that kind of mischievous look on your face, Emily, I already know it's going to be either absolutely hilarious, completely embarrassing, or probably a little bit of both.
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, it is definitely a healthy dose of both. I was standing in my kitchen, completely alone, making a warm cup of tea, when suddenly out of nowhere, my mind just stopped and I thought, wait a minute, do I use two or four in this specific context?
No way. You seriously telling me that you actually froze? Just standing there like a statue with a heavy, boiling kettle in your bare hand, over a couple of tiny prepositions? No way. You seriously telling me that you actually froze? Just standing there like a statue with a heavy, boiling kettle in your bare hand, over a couple of tiny prepositions?
Yes, I completely froze. It just goes to show that even teachers and native speakers have those sudden, overwhelming moments of doubt where the brain just takes a sudden vacation. But as I was standing there, I instantly started thinking about our wonderful listeners and how much they must struggle with this exact same thing.
That is such a profound and comforting point, Emily. If a seasoned teacher like you can freeze up over it, just imagine how many times our poor learners have to stop mid-sentence, feeling completely paralyzed because they are terrified of mixing up two and four.
Perfectly said, David. And before we dive deep into the ocean of examples, here is a quick, friendly reminder for everyone watching. If you genuinely enjoy learning English through these real conversations and friendly vibes, please take a quick second to subscribe to the Plain English podcast, hit that like button, and share this video with a friend who is also on this beautiful language journey. All right, now let's really get into the meat of it.
Right, I'm ready. Hit me with your best shot, Emily. Right, I'm ready. Hit me with your best shot, Emily.
Okay, tell me honestly, David, without overthinking it. When you just close your eyes and feel the language, what does the word to actually feel like to you?
Hmm. To me, two has this very strong, undeniable feeling of physical movement and clear direction, like you are actively moving your body or your mind from point A to point B.
Smiles brilliant. That is an absolutely fantastic starting point for our listeners. Two very often shows direction, a clear destination, or a specific intention. So if I say, I'm going to the kitchen, that is clear physical movement toward a place. And if I say, I'm studying English to improve my job chances, that shows my active purpose and intention. So, in short, two answers questions like where you are going, why you are moving, and for what purpose you are doing an action.
Wow, that makes so much sense when you break it down like that. Okay, now let me turn the tables and ask you a question. What does the word for feel like in your heart? Take your time.
Smiles for me, for feels much more emotional. It feels like benefit, appreciation, and purpose. It's the feeling you get when something is created, done, or given specifically for someone else to enjoy.
Perfect. Truly, that is absolutely beautiful. So for often shines a spotlight on the person who benefits from the action or the person who ultimately receives the love. For instance, when I say, "This special gift is for you," it is completely correct because you are the one benefiting from my affection, not to you.
Exactly. Because English is a deeply emotional language, it isn't always about cold, hard logic. When you want to focus your heart on the receiver, you use for. But when you want to focus on the destination or the direct action, you use to. Let's slow it down with a simple, real life situation to make it crystal clear. Imagine you just cooked a massive, delicious dinner, which already sounds incredibly stressful for me. You would say, I cooked dinner for my family because your family is directly benefiting from your hard work and delicious food.
Right. And then you would say, I went to the kitchen to cook it, because your body physically moved to that location. Boy, what happens when we decide to mix them both together into one giant sentence?
Don't panic. It's actually beautiful when they come together. Think about this. I went to the store to buy fresh vegetables for my family. Look at that. One single powerful sentence that uses both words completely naturally. It might not be super simple for a beginner, but it is exactly how native speakers talk.
Wow, that is pure authentic English right there. Let me try to challenge myself and make one up on the spot using everything we just talked about. Go for it. I would say, I am learning English to speak confidently for my future.
Smiles. Nice! Very, very nice, David. That was an absolutely textbook perfect example, and you delivered it with so much natural confidence.
Really? You honestly think so? I was a little bit nervous that it might sound too forced, but I tried to just focus on the feeling behind the words rather than overthinking the structure.
Yes, absolutely. Your sentence was spot on because your future is the thing that directly benefits from all your hard work right now. See? When you connect it to a benefit, four just clicks. I can already feel that this whole concept is becoming so much clearer for our listeners.
I'm so glad to hear that. But let's be real for a moment. Learners still get incredibly confused out there in the real world. And from what I've noticed, a huge reason for that is because they constantly try to translate every single word directly from their own native language into English.
Oh, you hit the nail right on the head, David. Word for word translation can be a really dangerous trap when you're trying to achieve fluency. The truth is, English simply doesn't work very well with literal translations. It operates much better on gut feelings, cultural patterns, and emotional contexts.
That is such a beautiful and accurate way to phrase it, Emily. Let's actually look at a very common mistake that drives this point home. I hear this particular sentence all the time in my classes and in online forums, and it always makes me want to pause the conversation. Exactly, it just sounds a bit broken. The incorrect version is, I explained this to him for help, but the correct natural way to say it would be, I explained this to him to get help, or even better, I asked him for help. That sounds infinitely more natural to a native ear.
Precisely. And if you pay close attention, you'll notice a pattern here. The verb ask almost always goes hand in hand with for. Think about it. We naturally say ask for help, ask for advice, or ask for directions. It just flows effortlessly.
That's true, but wait a second, Emily. Let me play devil's advocate for a minute. What about when we say, I am going to ask to speak to the manager? Why does it suddenly switch to in that scenario?
Ooh, look at you asking the tough questions. But that's a brilliant observation, David. We switch to there because you are asking for permission or stating a direct intention to do an action, which is to speak. Wow, English really does love to test our patience and mock us sometimes, doesn't it?
It really does. It loves to throw those little curveballs at us. But honestly, once you stop fighting it and simply start noticing these repetitive patterns in daily conversations, everything becomes 10 times easier. Let's pivot a bit and talk about how to and for can completely alter the emotional tone of a sentence.
I love that idea because emotions are the heart of communication. Think about this classic phrase, I'm happy for you. We would never ever say, I'm happy to you. And the reason is that for shows genuine emotional support, celebration, and shared benefit with another person.
Ah, that makes total sense. So it's the exact same underlying concept, Feast, when we say, I feel so sorry for you, because you are offering your emotional support. But on the flip side, if I say, I really want to talk to you, we use to because my speech and my energy are being physically directed right toward you.
Perfect. You've completely mastered it. Now, let me give you a little pop quiz to test your instincts. Fill in the blank for this sentence. I wrote a letter, my friend. Which one would you instinctively choose here? Take your time and really feel it out.
Hmm, let me think about this carefully. If I am focusing strictly on the physical action of mailing the letter across a distance, I would probably choose to. But if I am focusing on the fact that my friend can't write, and I am doing this kind deed as a favor for them, then I would choose for.
Smiles exactly. Look at you go. So, the incredible truth is that both can be grammatically correct, depending entirely on the specific meaning and emotion you want to convey. I wrote a letter to my friend emphasizes the direction of the action, while I wrote a letter for my friend emphasizes the benefit or favor. English can be so beautifully sneaky sometimes.
It really can be a bit of a trickster. But that's also what makes it so incredibly rich and expressive. Let's bring this concept directly into a relatable daily life scenario that everyone can connect with, like a typical morning routine.
Oh, everyone can relate to that. Think about how a normal morning sounds when you use these words naturally. I wake up early to exercise. That's your active purpose. I make a delicious breakfast for my kids. That's the benefit you give them. Then, I drive to work. That's your physical movement. And finally, I work incredibly hard for my family. And that is your deep emotional motivation.
Oh, I absolutely love that last one, Emily. It gives me goosebumps because it feels so deeply emotional and real. And honestly, this is exactly what language learners truly need. They don't just need rigid mechanical rules like always used to with verbs and for with nouns. They need real, human meaning because meaning is the secret glue that helps a language stick in your brain forever.
I couldn't agree more, David. To wrap this up beautifully, let's look at how these words handle time expressions, which is another area where people often trip up. Think about the phrase, thanks for coming. It's incredibly common, right? But then we also say, I came to help. Look at that contrast.
Wow, that is a fascinating comparison. If you look closely at it, for is almost looking backward in time, thanking someone for an action that has already happened, while to is looking forward into the future, explaining the direct reason or goal of why you showed up in the first place. What a brilliant way to think about it. Wow. Honestly, Emily, I think I just completely impressed myself with that last breakdown. I didn't even know I had that level of deep linguistic analysis inside me.
And you absolutely should be proud of yourself, David. That was a fantastic realization. Now, let's keep this amazing momentum going and tackle another incredibly common mistake that I see making the rounds all the time. Are you ready?
Oh, I am born ready. Bring it on. What kind of mistake are we looking at this time?
All right, here it is. I often hear students say, I'm waiting to you. Oh, every time I hear that, it just hurts my ears a little bit. What do you think is the correct version here?
Well, that one is definitely supposed to be, I'm waiting for you. If we apply our emotional logic from earlier, it makes perfect sense because the other person is the ultimate receiver of your time, your patience, and your waiting. But then, on the flip side, if I say, I'm going to wait outside, we are dealing with physical direction and location again.
Exactly. See? English is actually so much more consistent than people give it credit for. Once you stop looking at it as a chaotic mess and start actively noticing these beautiful, repetitive patterns, the entire language opens up to you. That is truly the golden key to fluency.
That really is the key, Emily. You know, thinking back on my own journey, do you know what actually helped me the absolute most when I was struggling to speak fluently?
Oh, I'm dying to know. Tell me, what was the big turning point for you?
It was actively stopping myself from translating every single English sentence back into my native language. Wow, let me tell you, making that conscious shift was absolutely huge for my mental clarity. I used to hear a beautiful English phrase, and my brain would immediately stress out, trying to find the exact word-for-word equivalent in my own language.
Oh, I can relate to that so much. And I know for a fact that almost all of our listeners are nodding their heads right now. Doing that literal translation is just completely exhausting because your poor brain is forced to do two or three heavy jobs at the exact same time. First, it has to decipher the English. Then it has to translate it. Then it has to formulate a response. And finally try to speak it out loud. No wonder people feel totally drained after a 5-minute conversation.
Exactly. It's like running a mental marathon at full speed. That's why we always encourage our wonderful learners to just relax and try to think in simple English. Notice I said simple English, not perfect English. Let's do a quick practical exercise right now to show them how easy this can be.
Smiles. Oh, I love a good practical challenge. Let's do it.
Okay, close your eyes for a second and imagine you are sitting in a cozy, beautiful little cafe. Tell me, using only simple English, what do you see and feel around you?
Let's see. I see happy people sitting together and talking. I see someone relaxed in a corner reading a fascinating book. I smell the rich, incredible aroma of freshly brewed coffee. I came here to relax, which is my active purpose. And I ordered a delicious cappuccino for myself, which is my personal benefit.
Smile, see? Look at that. That is real, living English at its absolute finest. No confusing grammar charts needed. No painful memorization, just pure life experience. That is exactly how a language naturally grows inside your mind, through real experiences, authentic conversations, and these small, beautiful, everyday moments.
Absolutely. Let's apply this exact same real life approach to a different topic, like work. Think about it. Why do people actually get up and go to work every single day? They do it to earn money. That is their direct purpose.
Right, and if you ask who they are working for, the answer changes completely. They work for a prestigious company, or they work for their beautiful family, or they work for their own future. It's absolutely fascinating how shifting just one little word can completely transform the underlying meaning and emotional weight of a sentence.
It really is beautiful, David. Sometimes learners feel incredibly frustrated and overwhelmed by these tiny details, which is completely understandable. But those details naturally become easier the more exposure you get. You don't need to master every single rule before you open your mouth. You just need to meet the language many times, and your brilliant brain will naturally start noticing the patterns on its own.
Exactly. I mean, that is the exact natural process of how children learn to speak. And it's how the most successful language learners in the world improve their skills, too. It all comes down to repetition, but specifically meaningful repetition, not boring, mechanical repetition like copying lists.
Yes, there is a massive difference between the two. Let's do a quick, fun challenge for our listeners right now to give them some of that meaningful repetition. I'll say a quick real life sentence and you explain the logic behind it. Let's go. First sentence: I went to the market. Perfect. Next one: I bought beautiful flowers for my mother.
That represents benefit and the lovely receiver of your action.
Spot on. How about this? I called my best friend to ask a quick question.
That is a clear purpose and intention.
And final one: I am saving my hard earned money for a dream trip.
That is definitely a future benefit and motivation. Wow, Emily, these examples just feel so incredibly real and relatable.
Smiles, that's because they are real, David. Real life situations are infinitely easier for the human brain to remember. Nobody on this planet remembers a cold, dry grammar rule forever, but people will remember a good story until the day they die. That is the immense power of conversation. It connects language with deep human emotions, and emotions are the ultimate fuel for long-term memory.
That is so incredibly true. It's funny you say that because I still vividly remember specific English phrases that I learned years and years ago, long before I became fluent.
Really? Oh, now you've got me super curious. Why do you think those specific phrases stuck with you for all these years?
Honestly, it's simply because those phrases were deeply connected to meaningful, real-life moments in my life. It wasn't because I sat down and mechanically memorized a dry rule from a textbook. It was because the words actually meant something to me at that very dynamic moment. Honestly, it's simply because those phrases were deeply connected to meaningful, real-life moments in my life. It wasn't because I sat down and mechanically memorized a dry rule from a textbook. It was because the words actually meant something to me at that very dynamic moment.
Ah, that is such an incredibly important lesson for every single person watching this right now, David. Learning a new language is not just about studying hours of grammar rules in a quiet room. It is heavily about experiencing the language through real conversations, real laughter, and real human connections. Those experiences create vivid memories, and those memories are what help the language stay with us forever.
Smiles exactly. So, if you are sitting at home listening to us right now, please do yourself a huge favor and don't stress about memorizing every single tiny rule. Instead, just focus on understanding the core feeling behind the words and focus on actively using your English out there in the world. Conversation at a time, one sentence at a time, and one small improvement at a time. That is exactly how true confidence is built.
Slowly but steadily. You know what, David? I truly think that so many learners are just completely terrified of making mistakes with two and four. They literally freeze up and stop speaking altogether because they are so deeply worried about getting it wrong in front of others.
And that is so incredibly unfortunate because at the end of the day, real communication is infinitely more important than cold perfection. If the person you are talking to can easily understand your core message and your heart, that is already a massive, undeniable success.
Even if you make a small grammatical mistake along the way.
Absolutely. That should be so reassuring for everyone to hear. Learning a language isn't about suddenly being flawless and never making a single mistake. It's simply about making fewer mistakes over time as you grow.
Exactly. Let's imagine a learner is trying their best and says, I bought this to my friend. Sure, it's not grammatically perfect, but is it understandable? Usually, yes, absolutely. And with more time and gentle practice, they will naturally adjust it and say, I bought this for my friend. Real improvement always happens gradually because that is the true beauty of learning. It never happens overnight.
Never overnight. It's always one step at a time, one conversation at a time. Hey, let's pivot to one of my absolute favorite topics in the world to show more patterns. Let's talk about travel. Never overnight. It's always one step at a time, one conversation at a time. Hey, let's pivot to one of my absolute favorite topics in the world to show more patterns. Let's talk about travel.
Smiles. Oh, I absolutely love traveling too. Let's do it. Think about how natural this sounds. When I travel, I go to new places. That's physical direction. I travel for adventure. That's my emotional reason. And I travel to learn about different, fascinating cultures. And that is my ultimate purpose.
Wow, look at that. Three perfect examples right in a row, and they all feel so incredibly smooth and natural. That's because they are directly connected to real life, and real life context always helps the brain process things better. Let's try another very common situation, like someone's birthday party.
All right, I'm ready. Imagine it's your birthday, David. I would say, I bought a massive chocolate cake for my friend because you are the lucky receiver. I went to the bakery, again, which shows my physical direction. And finally, I went there to buy the cake, which explains my clear purpose.
This is honestly becoming so much easier, Emily. I can see the light bulbs switching on. It's because we are actually seeing the patterns in action instead of memorizing dead rules. We are seeing real meaning, and meaning is incredibly powerful. What about our hobbies?
Good idea. Let's think about the gym. You could say, I joined a local gym to get healthier purse. That's your purpose. I exercise every single day for my long-term health. That's the massive benefit. And I physically go to the gym every single morning. And that is your direction.
Wow, this is actually incredibly fun. Learning a language should always feel this fun and engaging. I think so many people out there completely forget that. They think learning English has to be this deeply stressful, complicated ordeal full of thick grammar books and endless vocabulary lists.
That is such a common, painful image that people have in their minds. But it absolutely does not have to be that way at all. Real, flowing conversations make the language feel alive, vibrant, and within reach. And that is exactly why we are having this open discussion today, to make English feel natural, welcoming, and never scary.
Never scary. Let's look at one final daily scenario about just helping people out in public. For example, I kindly opened the heavy door for an elderly man. That's the benefit he received. And then I walked quickly to my car, which is my direction. I hurried to get home before the heavy rain started, and that was my urgent purpose.
It's amazing how many perfect examples appear completely naturally in our daily lives without us even trying. That is exactly why listening practice through real conversations is so incredibly vital for your fluency journey.
Exactly, Emily. It's because when you listen to real conversations, you hear these natural patterns being used again and again in context. Over time, your brain just absorbs them, and eventually they start to feel completely normal and right to you, just like they do for a native speaker.
That is a massive truth right there. Native speakers don't usually walk around thinking about complex grammar rules or sentence structures before they speak. They just think about the core meaning they want to share. Language, at its absolute core, is about communication first. Grammar is just a tool that supports that communication, not the other way around.
Smiles. I love that perspective so much, Emily. Honestly, if our wonderful listeners remember only one single thing from our conversation today, what do you think it should be?
I want them to focus entirely on meaning, not on fear. Focus on clear communication, not on flawless perfection. And most importantly, focus on your steady progress, not on the little mistakes you make along the way. That is where the real magic happens.
That is so incredibly beautiful, and it is so deeply true. You know, when people first start learning English grammar, they often have this rigid idea in their heads that grammar is this very serious, strict and terrifying monster full of endless rules. But real, living English is actually very soft. It bends, it flows, and it moves naturally with life. That is so incredibly beautiful, and it is so deeply true. You know, when people first start learning English grammar, they often have this rigid idea in their heads that grammar is this very serious, strict and terrifying monster full of endless rules. But real, living English is actually very soft. It bends, it flows, and it moves naturally with life.
Yes, it really does. Real English lives quietly in your daily actions, your personal habits, and your deepest emotions. That is exactly why seemingly simple words like to and for are so incredibly important. They are the silent bridges that seamlessly connect what you are actively doing with the deeper reason of why you are doing it. They help you explain your true self to the world.
Precisely. They don't just describe your cold, hard actions. They reveal your human intentions. Let's think about our big dreams for a quick moment. For instance, you might say, I'm learning English to travel the world, which is a very clear, wonderful goal. But then, you could also say, I'm learning English for freedom. Man, that second sentence just feels so much deeper and more emotional, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Because language opens massive doors for us. It opens up deep conversations, it builds unstoppable confidence, and it connects cultures. Let's imagine another very simple, relatable daily moment. You come home after a brutally long, exhausting day at work. You collapse onto the couch and say, I'm sitting down to relax, which is your direct action. But then you follow it up with, I desperately need this quiet moment for my mental health.
Wow, that is pure honesty right there. And that is the beauty of it. English allows you to be completely raw and honest when you use it naturally, and that honesty is what makes a conversation feel real. It's the same when we talk about showing kindness. You might tell a friend, I called you to check on you, showing your action with care. And then you add, and I did it for your peace of mind, which just carries so much warmth.
Smiles English can carry so much genuine warmth when you finally stop fighting it. I see so many learners constantly fighting the language, trying to manually control every single syllable and rule in their head before they speak. But English works infinitely better when you just relax and trust the process. That trust naturally comes from consistent listening, lighthearted repeating, and making small mistakes without any fear.
Smiles English can carry so much genuine warmth when you finally stop fighting it. I see so many learners constantly fighting the language, trying to manually control every single syllable and rule in their head before they speak. But English works infinitely better when you just relax and trust the process. That trust naturally comes from consistent listening, light-hearted repeating, and making small mistakes without any fear.
I absolutely love how learning English beautifully mirrors life itself. Think about it. In life, we do things to move forward, and we do things for the reasons and the people that truly matter to our hearts. Learning English is exactly the same journey. You practice every single day to improve your skills, but you continue pushing forward for your bright future, for your personal confidence, and for your own unique voice.
Smiles beautifully said. And I promise you, one day very soon, you won't even think about two and four anymore while speaking. They will just flow out of your mouth completely naturally, because language truly lives in active use, not in dead rules. The more you listen to conversations like this, the more natural it all becomes. So please, take your time, enjoy this beautiful process, speak up whenever you can, and just listen whenever you need a break.
Exactly. Just always remember that you are learning English to communicate with the world, and you are learning English for yourself. And honestly, that is the most important, beautiful reason of all.
Absolutely. Thank you all so incredibly much for spending your precious time with us today. We genuinely hope this heartfelt conversation helped make 2 and 4 feel a little bit easier and less scary for you.
Yes, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Keep listening, keep practicing, keep speaking, and above all, keep believing in your wonderful progress. Goodbye, everyone, and we will see you in the next episode.